Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Clint McPherson. What's up, man? How's it going?
Not much, brother. Good to have you back. And I'm just glad to record another episode. I know we both flew solo a couple times over the last few episodes, but let's go ahead and kick this thing off by welcoming our special guest, Sarah St. John, to the show. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Hey, Sarah. Yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show today on Labor Day. So that's always good. Working on Labor Day makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Before we get into everything, could you just give us, tell our audience who you are and what you're all about?
Sure. My name is Sarah St. John. I have a podcast called Frugalpreneur, Building a Business on a Bootstrapped Budget. And my focus is on just the different types of online businesses someone could start either as a side hustle or just a way to earn extra income, or hopefully someday go into that full time. And then just the different tools and resources that people can use to manage a business on a budget. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade and done a bunch of offline businesses and realized that just the amount of money that involves, like a photography business, for example. I was like, I need to do something online that is affordable.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
when you book a lot of overhead.
Yeah. When you booked the show, I was very impressed because I did some research, right? And I really like the approach that you're taking, like the frugal route, as far as how can I do this for not that much money? I know that you leverage some of the AppSumo apps, I believe. And I noticed that you do some contests and stuff like that. What is your favorite one? Me and Andrew have been trying to figure this thing out. I think we gave one of them a test run. I'm not going to call the name out, but it just didn't really meet our expectations, I think, or really deliver what we were looking for. And so we're really trying to find that one thing that can help us run contests, help us spike viewers or listeners, right, for our podcast, and just making it fun, because there's so many podcasts out there that it is really a crowded area, and it's important to stand out. And so we're trying to figure out that route. But it's fun to test all that stuff out too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love King Sumo. That's what I use for my giveaways. The only issue with it is that it doesn't have, when someone clicks on share on Facebook or Twitter or whatever so that they get more points, it doesn't really verify that they actually did that. It's kind of like taking them at their word, basically. It'll pull up a thing for them to, log in and share it, but they don't actually have to. So that's the only thing. There's a bunch of there's Up Viral and Viral Sweeps.
Up Viral is so costly though, right? I mean, when you look at it, it's not the frugal route at all.
Right. That's why I do King Sumo, because it's free.
Yeah.
And then AppSumo also has, I recently discovered SendFox, which is their email marketing. Oh yeah. Do y'all use that?
I have it. Yeah. Still trying to figure it out, but I showed Andrew, and SendFox is where it's at.
Yeah. I did actually a whole episode just about SendFox. Cause basically, for people who don't know what it is, it's like an email marketing platform. But if you're a content creator with a podcast, a blog, a YouTube channel, you can put in your link or your RSS feed, basically, and it automatically pulls from that and sends out a newsletter every week. So, I mean, it's a big time saver. It's
super powerful too, right? I mean, I watched an episode that we're going to have this guest on in a couple of episodes, I believe, Doc Williams, which Andrew knows about, I'm sure you know about. And so we're going to have him on the show. But the cool thing is I was sitting there watching, I was like, I got to find something, right? ConvertKit is almost along the same path, but it's not that one-time deal, almost like SendFox is, right? And so when I pulled the trigger on that, they always seem like they have that it factor when you get started. And then you find out like, this is not what I'm looking for. But SendFox is so cool because it is for creators, right? And that you can customize it. It pulls it in for you, however you have it on your website, however you have it in your podcast, but then you could even customize it from there, which makes it so awesome.
I know, it saves so much time. And I'm currently on the free plan, but yeah, I think you can do like the $49 one-time fee to get extra. I forget what extra.
It's $10 extra, I think, a month to actually like use everything.
Okay.
Or whatever I ended up getting on through AppSumo, that's what it is. And it's just extra $10 to, I don't know exactly what extra benefit it gives you. But Andrew, what was the one, do you remember the one that was the contest that we were trying out?
Oh man, I can't. Well, there was what was the one that you got a while ago?
Well, no, I was leaning towards King Sumo, and then we decided to go against the other one because I was like, oh man, this other one seems like it's it. But then we went down a rabbit hole and it didn't work out.
No, yeah, it's really tough to balance something that has good usability and that actually had like, because you're looking for is really not super complicated, but for whatever reason it seems like these giveaway platforms make it really tough or just really expensive. So and we were looking for I was looking for something specifically that would allow us to, if you share the podcast and somebody actually subscribes to it, that subscription action that triggers, an extra level of points or, another entry or whatever. And I just couldn't find that. I'm sure there's somebody who can do it for a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. So until then, it's kind of like you're just better off even with something like King Sumo, even though that you kind of have to take people at their word, they click on something, it allows them to share. Hopefully they do. And if they don't, it's like, well, all right. If they're really not going to be that cool about it, then that's going to happen anyway. So, yeah.
So Sarah, let's go to your entrepreneurial journey. I mean, with everything you said and what you currently do with Frugal, with your podcast, Frugalpreneur, right? And so can you take us back to when your actual entrepreneurial journey started and what it is about entrepreneurship specifically that keeps that fire burning inside of you?
So I started my entrepreneurial journey over a decade ago with the photography business. And I realized that while I like taking photos of animals and landscapes and architecture, I didn't really like taking photos of people, but that's where the money is. I was doing weddings and portraits. But the bigger issue was just how expensive it was to maintain camera equipment, lighting, software, just all that stuff. And so I decided that I wanted to move into an online business. And so I researched like all these different options like drop shipping, affiliate marketing, blogging, just all the different options and tried some of them out. But it was in the course of that process that I discovered all these like tools and resources that were either free or really affordable that you could operate a whole business on for under $100 a month, which is what I do. And so I was like, you know what? I should write a book about this. And so then I started writing the book and I was like, I should launch a podcast to go along with the book. But the plan was just for it to be like a short-term thing. And then I ended up loving podcasting so much and interviewing people. And I felt like I was learning so much and I was getting more leverage with the podcast than the book and enjoying it more. And I was like, maybe this is where it's at. And so I've just gone on from there. I've been focused on the podcast and I'm working on a podcast production agency because I like doing it so much myself. Why not get paid to do it for other people? And then I'm working on some courses as well. So I think podcasting is my focus now.
Okay. Yeah. It's a great medium because, you don't, writing is, I guess some people like writing compared to, everybody's got, I guess, their favorite medium. For me, I can write, but I also, I don't really prefer it. So I think podcasting is great because, you just have an interesting conversation with somebody. And the more you talk with them, the more information you get out, the more helpful information you can get out to people. And in a half hour or an hour or whatever it is, you can a lot of times get just as much or more information to your audience than you can if you're sitting down and writing a 3,500 word blog. And as much as that is important, it's great to figure out what you like the most. And, if getting in front of a microphone is it, that's cool. If it's not, then maybe writing is your thing. But, I think just getting out there and getting some content into the world is the most important thing, because you're building an audience.
Yeah. And I think it was Seth Godin that said that podcasting is the new blogging. And, and with the book, and people say, you should have a book as your business card, basically. But I almost think that podcasting is like, especially for businesses, like every business needs a website or a sales funnel or whatever. I feel like podcasting is becoming, every business needs a podcast,
Yeah. Well, it helps you build that relationship with people that you normally, wouldn't. And I'm not saying you wouldn't be friends or you wouldn't have a relationship with them, but when you're all over the country, it's hard. Now that we have virtual, we have Zoom, it's a lot easier to get on with somebody like Sarah St. John, right? We didn't really know of you before then. Like, you probably didn't know of us before you came across our page on whatever it was, Podmatch or whatever. And so when you look at this, it's like, it's a cool thing to where it's like, you find out how awesome people are in their own space, how awesome the entrepreneurs are all over the world, that you're like, man, we have so much in common, yet we're so different. Our journeys are always different, but there's a lot of times where we find ourselves in the same spots, right? To where we doubt ourselves, to where we might be confused at what we're doing. And that comes to a lot of us not knowing our why. And that's why a lot of people says, find out your why you're doing it. If it's something that you enjoy, right? If it's writing, write and blog. If it's doing the video, if you like being behind a camera, do a video blog, right? If you like podcasting and meeting new cool people and just like, man, listening to them, it helps us stay encouraged, right? To see, okay, they struggled here. This is how they overcame that adversity. And it's just so powerful. And that's why I love podcasting so much. I think we all have a fear of hearing our own voices sometimes, especially if we're not used to talking or if we're not used to being behind a video camera. But it's like, I think when I approached Andrew about it, he's just like, man, I don't know. Like, it's a cool idea, but do I really want to do it? And then you start doing it and you realize this is where it's at for real,
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. And just the connections you can make.
Oh, sure.
And you don't know like who that person knows and so on and so forth. And and sometimes it almost feels like you're getting a free one-on-one consultation. Like,
exactly.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And we've already reached out. I've reached out to a couple people that we've interviewed and, just ask them questions, and they're happy to respond. And I'm happy to answer their questions about, the things that I'm more familiar with. So yeah, it's an amazing way to network where you can reach out to somebody, invite them on a podcast, and they're much more likely to accept that than if you just reach out to them randomly and say, hey, I want to meet you, or, I want to talk to you about something. And they're like, okay, but is there a platform that we're going to be, talking on? So yeah, it really is a cool thing. So yeah, Sarah, we talked about it a little bit, but you mentioned starting and managing a business on a budget, and it's never been a better time to do that because of being able to start an online business, especially, and you just don't necessarily need a lot of capital to start a business these days. Can you talk about your favorite low budget business model, and generally how does that work?
Well, podcasting right now is my favorite. You can get started for under $100. I mean, assuming that someone already has a computer, obviously, all they need is, a mic and a boom arm and whatever, and you can get a good mic for $60. And I think people assume that starting podcasting would be expensive, and they think of like broadcast radio stations and all the stuff and equipment that they have, but you don't have to start that way. Like the mic I'm using is $60. So, so for me, I've settled on podcasting, but I've done like drop shipping, which is an affordable thing to start. The only problem with that is that the products are usually from China, and the time that it takes because everyone's so used to Amazon Prime and getting their stuff in 2 days. So that's the problem with that, is because it can take them 2 to 6 weeks probably to get their stuff. So I'm kind of going away from that.
Yeah.
But
that is tough. Unless, I mean, there are some manufacturers and overseas that are used to that kind of thing, and that can get things out quickly. But I think if you're dealing with a manufacturer who's not used to it, that could be really tough. And then you're sort of stuck, handling the customer service, and it's not your product, and you don't know everything about it anyway. So yeah, that is kind of tough.
I mean, you could get a distributor in the United States, but it costs so much more, so your profit margin isn't very high at that point. So yeah, and I still do some affiliate marketing. I think that's a good business model, but you have to have some sort of platform, like a blog or a podcast or whatever, for that to even work.
You have to have some kind of following for sure, like something to where it makes sense, because even if you become an affiliate of something and you don't push it, or if you don't have a following that knows you're using that specific software, I mean, it's something that you had to iterate over and over. So everybody's tracking, and then this starts to spark that curiosity, right? So they start asking, so what are you actually using? Like, oh, Synfox, or, hey, yeah, I'm using this, right? Whatever podcast platform, like for us, it would be Buzzsprout, right? And so those are the conversations that I think me and Andrew don't even really, I mean, I know we can get a kickback from it, but we haven't even really pushed it. We put it in our show notes, but really, who's really reading those, right? Like, you don't know that yet until your email list is huge or whatever it is. It's like, and then there's no conversions coming through. So when it comes down to it, it's like, as an affiliate marketer, you have to do it right. You have to set up landing pages or talk about it a lot, right? And so that it can be challenging, but people kill it in affiliate marketing. You just got to find the right way and right method to push it out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think having like a resource page or a tools I use page but then, people have to go to your website and actually go there. So
you got to get them there. Yeah. And that's where the content comes in. So that's why it's so important to become an authority of some kind in your, with whatever you do. And then people are like, oh yeah, okay, I'm interested in whatever they use. I'm going to want to use, because I can see that it's working really well for them. So, I mean, I've done that myself, where I see somebody who's kind of proven to me that they're an authority, and I'm like, I wonder what they use for email marketing. I'm very curious. And then I go to their page, and then they might, rank different email marketing programs and explain why one works better than the other in certain circumstances. And it's so helpful, I mean, and that's the thing. If you can provide help to people, then it's going to be very, very, very valuable. Instead of just throwing up some links, it's good to be helpful, and people can see that.
Well, I think that's where the long form content comes into play that you referred to earlier, right? The 3,500 word article or whatever that you can flush out. You can actually throw a video in there. You can actually show some screenshots of the actual software or whatever it is you're using. You can actually do a demo yourself and talk people through it and show them why you love it, man. Look how cool this is, right? And that's where that really comes in, because what happens is people sign up to be an affiliate, right, of this product, and they don't do any of that. They just have a link, and they're just sharing this random link, and people are like, hey, if you want this, and it's like really not going into it to really build the trust with their audience for that specific thing, because everybody knows affiliate marketing is huge. And then people see these random links because a lot of the links they don't even look legit, right? When you send it out, you're like, man, this is just random. I'm not clicking on this spammy link. But so that's why it's either good to hide it and clone it or whatever it is, and then come up with a cool URL for it. So whenever they do, it redirects them to it, to where you want them to land. But then even if you promote that stuff, social media hates that, right? They don't like when you promote affiliate links, and then they kind of restrict it. I know Facebook's real bad on that, where it's like they want to hold you down in that area. But I mean, you got to be creative and different when it comes to affiliate marketing.
Or even like a comparison post is a good idea.
Oh, that's even better. I mean, that's the greatest one that I could think of, and I'm glad you said that.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then you could probably even run like Google ads to that post.
Oh, exactly. No, you're dead on. I mean, that's what I've realized a lot of people that I follow, or when you go to their social medias and you start seeing, when you do it, you realize it's being done to you, right? And so then you start seeing those actual Google ads or whatever it is. Facebook remarketing is huge. I mean, when I'm interested in something, I look at it real quick because I'm scrolling through Facebook and I watch this video, and then that's all I see forever now. And you're just like, okay, I got to hide this, or I can't click on one of these things again because this is all I'm getting. My whole feed, I don't even see any updates from my friends. It's just affiliate marketing or some kind of, hey, buy this thing. I'm just like, golly, Facebook is not where it's at if you want to know what's going on with people. Yeah. So Sarah, as an avid podcaster, what is it about the medium that you think is so powerful, and what do you think that the future looks like for podcasting?
Well, I think the future is definitely bright. I mean, I think just during COVID, it went from 700,000 podcasts to like 1.3 or 1.4, something like that. It's like practically doubled. I guess because people are at home and have time and decide they want to start podcasts. But of course, a lot of those won't probably stick around. But so, and I think it's becoming more like mainstream. Like before, people didn't even really know what a podcast was or what that meant. But now, like TV shows, everything is like, oh, did you listen to that podcast? Like they're throwing it into like TV shows, and there's even TV shows and stuff now that are based on that started as a podcast. Yeah, and then the whole Joe Rogan thing with the $1 million. Or no, 100 million.
100 million.
100 million.
Yeah.
100 million, yeah. With Spotify. And I don't know. I know Spotify's spending a lot of money in a bunch of different ways, like acquiring Anchor and just different things. So who knows what that, if they're trying to be bigger than Apple, I guess. But and I think more and more companies are starting podcasts and realizing that that's a medium to tap into. And I think why people like listening to them so much is because, well, first of all, it doesn't involve your eyes. So it's more, when you're watching a YouTube video or reading, that
you have to be fully engaged. Like you can be driving and listen to a podcast, and yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Safely. I've heard people watch Netflix on their commute because they.
Really?
But yeah,
wow.
that's not good.
That's not. I think that's more listening.
Right. Hopefully. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's scary. But yeah, so people can multitask with podcasting, whether they're driving or doing the dishes or laundry or whatever. And then they say that because you're so close to the brain, you're in their ears, and that somehow that I guess it has a more intimate vibe.
Okay.
I don't know if that's really a scientific thing, but
yeah, I wonder if it has something to do with, you have to use your imagination. Just like, reading, you have to use more of your imagination. And if you're listening to the radio or a podcast or something, you kind of have to fill in the blanks. Imagine what's going on. Kind of like if somebody's explaining a situation, you're imagining that situation. instead of it just being just, displayed for you, which it's cool both ways. Sometimes it's great to just to not have to turn your brain off a little bit and just let it just, be entertained fully. And but I think you're right. I think that's it. And I think people are looking for more and more ways to be, they're looking for more resources for educational purposes now, and I think it's going to be really interesting over the next 5-10 years, what happens with like formal education and universities and how they approach. It's not like they're going to go away, but they're going to have to definitely pivot a little bit. And people are just going to be like, man, I can learn a lot on YouTube and from podcasts and from all this information that's out there. Yeah, that's exactly. That's totally free. You can do so many things. You can, you fix your car from like bumper to bumper almost with YouTube now. So why can't you do just about anything else? So, yeah.
And I think another thing about podcasting is it's so niche. Like how they say there's an app for that? Well, there's a podcast for that. There's a podcast for everything. And there's generally not commercials usually. You might have a sponsored ad or something, but whereas when you're listening to the radio, first of all, there's commercials. And secondly, who knows what they're going to talk about, whereas with a podcast, you have a general idea of the topic and what interests you. So
you kind of know what you're getting out of it.
Oh, for sure. And I think, Sarah, you brought up a good point. You said podcasts doubled over this time period, right? I'm so interested in seeing where this goes. Like, are these people going to be committed? Are they just doing it because it's convenient? Is it going to stay in the millions, right? Or whatever it is, it's going to be interesting. And I highly doubt it, because there's a lot of people that start a podcast, they get into it, like the first season, and they don't come back, or they'll record 20 episodes and they don't continue it on. And I think because they get frustrated or can't figure out the way to monetize it properly, or just don't have the time. But I really think you have to stay committed, and you have to trust the process, and you have to mold the process yourself, right? When me and Andrew started this thing out, we had no idea really what direction we wanted to go. We knew we wanted to interview people, get them on the show, talk to them, hear their stories. And then it just snowballed from there, right? Now people are reaching out to us, booking our shows. We're a couple of months in advance. Now it's like, it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to get on our show, right? And so that's a cool feeling to know, okay, we must be doing something right. And I think that Entrepreneurial Life, just that name in general, has gotten us a little further along too. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes down to it, the podcasting, like you said, it's so niche. And when you talk about niche, there's so many, even in a specific niche, there's so many different podcasts that is like, what do I actually listen to? But you got to find those individuals that you can relate to, some of those individuals that you understand. Listen to what your, like, Good Pods. We just had JJ Ramberg on the show, which is an awesome app, right? You start listening to people, like, you can follow your favorite celebrity or whatever if they're on there, and you can actually, okay, this is what they're listening to, right? You can follow your friends, you can invite them, and you can start seeing, okay, cool, if they're podcast listeners, this is what they're listening to. Maybe I need to check that out, right? And so I think it's a good way to grow, and then just see different viewpoints, because even though we're entrepreneurs, everybody's journey is different. And that's why I think it's so unique to at least listen and don't be so tunnel vision in your own path either, to learn from other people along the journey.
Yeah, I interviewed JJ Ramberg as well. And I think anyone who has a podcast definitely needs to be on Good Pods, because it's a good way to, like, basically promote your podcast or be more visible and make connections on there, because it's like a social feed basically. And I've ever since I've been on that app, I think my podcast, I've been getting a lot more listeners just because of that app. Oh,
for sure. If I think, like I said, if you continue on with a podcast and you're a podcast that's on there, it's going to do anything. It's going to always help you. You know what I'm saying? If it does anything else, it will always help you because somebody's going to be listening. And then that individual's like, oh, let me check out Frugalpreneur, right? Podcast. And now I'm listening to your show, right? And so before then, maybe I never heard of it. And I think JJ and her team, they've done awesome. I mean, then you get Kim Kardashian just randomly pushing it, right? And then it just explodes from there. And it's crazy how these things can start. You know, you have a vision and you stay true to the process. And then next thing you know, boom, you land a Kim Kardashian saying, check out Good Pods or whatever. And then now it's going to just grow just from that one tweet or one post or whatever it is, you know, that one video. And it's going to be good times for them. I'm excited to see what they got going on and how they evolve in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're growing really fast, especially ever since she promoted it. I've noticed, like, because I like to go under find. I forget how it's phrased, but find people or whatever.
Yeah.
And like after she announced that, like the list of people was like, I feel like it doubled, but
yeah.
No,
and I'm sure more celebrities are going to be using it too, you know?
Yeah. They're like, oh, let me get on this thing. And it really does level the playing field, you know? And especially if you're a celebrity, because I mean, you're still, even if you're famous, even if you have an existing following, there's still famous people paying to promote their podcasts, you know, like, which makes a lot of sense, but it is kind of amazing to me in a way, because it's like, you would think that there would be more like a mechanism, like a free mechanism that would help them just, you know, get some traction and then let it snowball. And I think Good Pods is that mechanism. And if it works, you know, it can work for anybody. If you don't have a following at all, you know, you get a little traction and somebody listens and they comment or they share it. I mean, like what Clint and I were talking about earlier, we've been trying to figure out, you know, a mechanism for us to help our listeners share the podcast, and just in an organic way. And that's kind of tough to do on your own, but with something like, you know, an app like Good Pods, it makes it very possible. So it's amazing what you can do with software, and not having to. Sarah, you were talking about, you know, having a physical product or, you know, an actual like a photography business, something where you're actually physically doing something and you have to be present, or you have to ship a product, or, you know, or something. Those businesses can be great, but if you can be 100% online with an app or an info product or something, it's pretty powerful, because, you know, you still have to, there's still plenty to do. It's not like it's easy, or, you know, you just hit a button and everything works out. But, you know, it's nice because you can scale it pretty easily without a lot of the issues that come with other businesses like service and product.
Yeah, a lot less overhead.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you're starting a business on a budget, you're likely doing it as a side hustle, and while you have a full-time job. The goal usually is to turn that side hustle into a full-time thing. How do you know when the right time to make that switch is? I think that's probably something that a lot of people would really, really want to know, mm-hmm. You know, is when do I make that switch?
Right. Yeah. And that's something I'm currently trying to figure out myself, because I still have a full-time job. I think, first of all, you definitely, whatever your side hustle is, it needs to be making enough money that at least matches, or ideally exceeds whatever your salary is at your day job. But then, of course, maybe you just have a good year. And then what happens if you quit your day job? And then, you know, so I would say maybe a couple years of matched income or beyond, or to where the income is so much higher that, right. Yeah. There's some cushion. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think it's really hard to know when you actually jump off the cliff, right? I mean, it's like you either have to trust the process, Trust that you're going to, if you do have that good year, that you're going to hustle just as hard and not get complacent, right? Because I think what you could do, you can see that you're having a good year, like, oh man, that was a lot easier than I thought. So then you get complacent, right? And you let complacency set in, and now you're not trying to push as hard because the hustle's still real, and you need a hustle, or you need to do what you did probably 5 to 10 times harder than you did it the year before. And just know that that good year, right? If you let your foot off the gas, can be you're right in the same spot. Now you're looking for a full-time job again, right? You don't want to have that happen. So I think it's really, for me, I mean, I would agree, right? To where it's like, you want to see some consistency. So, 2 years is not a bad time, but I think sometimes if you have a good thing going, when the right time is, right? You kind of have that gut feeling. I think you really need to lean and go with your intuition. I think if you feel, I think there's always going to be the fear of the unknown, right? So we're always going to be fearful of something, right? Fearful of failure, we're going to probably be fearful to succeed in some instances, right? And so I think letting that fear really take hold of you is not the greatest approach. But again, you have to trust the process. I think you really have to, and when your intuition speaks, you're usually right the first time, right? It's when you start doubting yourself or starting to question your intuition, that's when it's like you start seeing later on that you actually should have listened to it in the first place, right? Because you start seeing like, man, I questioned it. I didn't pull the trigger. Now look at this same guy that's doing the same thing in my area, or somebody I know that just, he heard my thought and he actually pushed the trigger and now he's killing it. And I missed my opportunity because now he has that, area on lockdown for right now. And so I think it really is important to go with the intuition part and just ride that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good points. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, yeah. I was agreeing that, that's
okay. Yeah. Sorry.
That's a good point. And I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I think you're right that at some point you're just going to know,
Exactly. So, I mean, are you getting I'm obviously, how long have you been, how many years would you say you've been doing this so are you getting closer to feeling that, are you getting closer to feeling that your intuition actually speak to you and say, this is the time to do it? Or are you still finding yourself to where that full-time job is your comfort zone or your comfort level right now that you just have to stay with?
Well, I've been podcasting just for about a year or so. But I think I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel type, whatever phrase you want to use, between the podcast production agency that I'm in the process of launching and then the courses as an additional source of income. I think once those kind of are launched and in full gear, because I actually just finished the rough draft of my third book called Podcastpreneur, and that comes out in October. And that actually, it talks about how to produce, promote, and profit from a podcast. But of course there's call to actions in there about the courses and the production agency and all that. So I think once that book is out, and then I'll really promote that book, then, so I'm thinking maybe another year, maybe I'll be more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And a year goes by so quick,
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah, there's so much that can happen. I mean, it goes by quick, but you can really make a lot of headway in 12 months. So
that's true.
Yeah,
I think writing it down, cool. Setting the time, a timeline, say, hey, by this date, make it happen. Right, get excited every time you wake up in the morning. An affirmation this is going to happen.
Maybe, I could set a timeline 12/31/21 or
there
something.
You go. Yeah. Boom. And then check. And then really it will give you a gut check right there, right? If you are, okay, well, I'm halfway there. I'm at the 50-yard line right now, but I wrote it down and I'm still moving forward. I think as long as we're continuously moving forward, the journey hasn't ended, right? And the journey never ends really. But I think even after you score that touchdown, using a football analogy, you can't have, it doesn't end there, right? Somebody else is going to score. So you got to keep grabbing the ball and the rock and keep moving down the field. So I really think again, the journey never ends. I think when it ends, and then when you give up, that's the failure part. I really, when I view failure, everybody's like, well, through failures or whatever. Yeah, maybe I didn't succeed in that area, but you learn from it. And as long as we're learning from that failure for that one specific point or one specific thing that we set out to do and we didn't achieve it, doesn't mean that we stop. Maybe we go a different direction. Now our path is somewhere else because we thought this was going to work. It didn't. But I think when we fail is when we give up, throw in the towel, and then go back to that full-time job that we're not happy with, right? Or find something to just have it, and you're like, you get to Friday and you're like, thank God it's Friday. How many times have you heard the TGIF, right? Like, I'm like, I want to just like bang my head against the wall when I hear that. I'm like, I never like, thank God it's Friday. Yeah, I like chilling, right? I like hanging out with the family, but even as an entrepreneur, it's not, you really don't have, if you're a true entrepreneur, it's like, when do you really have a day off? Your head's always working, right? So I just think when you get there and you're like, oh man, 4-day weekend, now I'm not going to do anything. Like, it's Monday, Labor Day, right? Like, we're actually doing something to help, probably that we're on the path. I think everything happens for a reason. And we're recording this podcast because hopefully it will give us some more visibility. It's another piece of content that we're going to be able to leverage, right? We're going to create show notes for this thing. We're going to share the assets with you. And there are things that it doesn't stop. And I think when people think it stops is when they fail or when they, don't continue to move the rock forward. That's when things start, not happening for them. So,
yeah. And even when I get home from work every day, and then on weekends, I'm always doing stuff for my business. And like today, like you mentioned, it's Labor Day, so I have the day off from my regular job. But because so many podcasts they only have availability within business hours to record an interview, I was like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. And so I have 6 interviews today. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gotta strike when you can. That's awesome.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, through your entrepreneurial journey to date, right? I mean, again, I would still, with you doing the Frugalpreneur podcast, with you trying to start your podcast agency, with the ideas, the being an author, going on your 3rd book, we know because our entrepreneurial journeys haven't been easy. We've all experienced highs and lows, right? But for you, what has been the most difficult thing about being an entrepreneur, or about continuing to move forward with this whole journey that you're on?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One is probably the shiny object syndrome, because I think entrepreneurs, like, our brains are just always, even when we're sleeping, our brains are going, thinking of new ideas, and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that or start that, and I've done that a few times, and then those things don't even pan out, or after I start them, then I'm bored with it, and I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? So I'd say that's been a struggle, but I think it's something that most entrepreneurs deal with at some point or another. And then I guess when something does fail, I don't know, I guess you're just always kind of like, when am I going to find that thing, that business that's it. That's what I'm going to pursue and make money on. And I think for me, I finally figured it out, podcasting, but it took a decade of doing this, that, and the other thing to get there. But, and I wish, and this is another thing, I guess, is just wishing, like, I wish I had started podcasting a decade ago instead of doing all these other businesses that, went nowhere, or maybe they did go somewhere, but then I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do long term. Because how much further along would I be if I started podcasting a decade ago with like John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn and all them? But oh well. So I think getting hung up on the woulda, coulda, shouldas is a problem too.
Yeah, and you can use that though going forward. I mean, I definitely feel that about certain things where I'm like, man, I wish I had started this years ago. But then I think, okay, whenever I get to a situation where I'm not really sure if I should do something, like, what if I, like I want to look 10 years back and be like, I started this now instead of just starting in 10 years, like I recently got into blog writing, and it's not my favorite thing at all. Again, I don't really love writing, but I definitely want to create helpful content for people. And I'm like, I want to look back a few years from now and just think, I'm so glad that I did this a few years ago. Because if you think about it, there's usually certain things where you can look back and say, I'm glad I did do that a while ago. And there's always things that you wish that you had done, but the things that that you're glad you did, you just sort of, I don't know. I use that as motivation to just think, now is the time to do it, and getting started as quickly as possible, as soon as possible with this stuff is very helpful, because especially with content, it does take a while for things for you to get traction. You're not going to be, unless you already have an audience, you're not just going to start a podcast or start a blog or start a vlog and just all of a sudden kill it. It's going to take a while, but if you stick with it, I mean, you can do so well with it.
The initial thing that comes to my head with you saying that, right, is what I hear from Gary Vee all the time. Some people don't like him, but it's the what ifs, right? You don't want to find yourself in a retirement home somewhere. And those are the people that you can learn some of the most from. And just listen to videos that Gary Vee talks about that, right? Just saying, like, just go spend some time with them and start asking them some questions. And you'll hear a lot of what ifs, like, what if I would have, bridge that relationship, with my son or daughter, before I can't do that here now. Right. Or what if I started this venture, this journey, this entrepreneurial journey, and I'm here now? What if I quit my 9-to-5 job and actually pulled the trigger on this thing that I actually created, but I'm too old or whatever? And it's just like, those are sad, because that's a huge burden to carry on with you, especially when you're a lot older, right? To where you're in a retirement home. There's not much you can do there, right? I mean, outside of playing bingo or something and having fun. But at the end of the day, it's like, you don't want to be in that position. And I think the what ifs, don't let life go by to where you're not pulling that trigger, right? That's the thing, is like, you got to make sure that if it feels right, if your intuition is speaking to you and it's something that even if it's a side hustle, which is perfect because that's what you're doing, right? Sarah, I mean, it's like the side hustle is real, and you're trying to find, and it took you a decade, right? You're podcasting, you're loving it, and you found it took you a decade to find this, but now your path is starting to come together, right? You're seeing that, okay, this podcasting thing, this is where I want to be. I want to share with people information so they can start businesses on a budget. They can find ways and tools and be creative with this process. And now, while you're doing that and sharing this information, you're getting interviewed on shows. Now it's giving you time to think about it, actually your why and what you want to do. And now that you're going to start your podcasting agency, right? And now you're writing your third book, and it gives you all this free time. There's so many people that have so much knowledge and they gather it. And even if they're not executing on that stuff, they still have value to give to the world, right? And don't sit on it. Just do it now. And that's my thing, is like, when me and Andrew started this podcast, it was like, hey, dude, we talked about it for a little while, and then it came to, hey, come over to my house, and then it was like, boom, I'm pushing record right now. And he's like, dude, what? Like, what's going on? Should we do this? And I'm like, just start speaking. It's going to happen. And then it was like, after a couple episodes, he's like, man, like, I feel more confident now, more comfortable, whatever it was, and that's all it takes. It's just get in there, even if it's by yourself, get in there, record, talk to the camera, right? And start and just hit the record button. And I think and another thing Gary Vee says, instead of figuring out what you need to create, start documenting your journey and just talk about it. Talk it out, so people know what you're working on right now, right? Even though you might not have anything specifically geared for them to motivate them, that can be motivation in itself, and saying, guys, I'm writing my book right now. We're halfway through this. It's going to be released in October. And then give people, it builds that excitement. Your following start saying, oh, Sarah has a book that's coming out in October. This is the third one. I got her first two. Now I'm looking forward to the third one. Right. And so I think, again, if you don't have anything that you can actually create, because even even writers get writer's block, right? So blogging, you're a writer, you're going to have writer's block from time to time, or you want that perfect piece of content. But it's like, how about documenting that journey? How about while you're writing your blog, show people the process that you're going through, right? Show them like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Okay, well, I'm trying to write a blog about entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur myself. And then just start, okay, I'm going here, checking out this. And then, people start eating that stuff up because they can kind of see themselves in your same position or in your same shoes and be like, okay, now that gave me a good idea. I can go to this website because he documented it and told me where he's at, where he's trying to find this information, where he finds the latest trends, whatever it is. And now they have something to go off of, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. I've actually thought about doing that, the documentation. But yeah, like what you were talking about earlier, what's that saying? It's like the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago.
Exactly.
And the second best time is today. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The second best time is today. That's it. I mean, because with a lot of things you see, you do something and then you see a result right away. And, and there's a quick like cause and effect. And that's what I think we're conditioned as humans to crave that. But there's, success isn't that. You don't like do one thing and then boom, you're successful. I think it's really success comes from focusing on the right things, because obviously if you're focusing on the wrong things and you're beating them to death, then it's not going to work out. So focus on the right things and stick with it. And that's it. Because if you're sticking with it and it is the right thing, it'll just eventually work. Like it just has to, because you'll just eventually get some traction and then some more traction and then some, you get customers, and those customers will tell other people, and then it just goes on from there. So yeah, I think it's to be successful, you really do have to get over this mentality that you're just going to like work really hard for a weekend and you're just going to kill it. It's like, no, you have to really do the things that consistently, that are going to work, but that are going to take time to grow. So,
yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. So Sarah, as we wrap up this episode, if is there one piece of advice that you could leave with our audience that could help them on their journey as an entrepreneur, if you had to pick one thing or a couple things?
Well, kind of going along with, should have planted a tree 50 years ago and the second best time is now, would be one issue that I've had is where I spend so much time learning about how to do whatever, whether it's through podcasts, blogs, YouTube videos, courses, books, and then I don't ever have the time or get around to implementing those things. So I recently decided that for every hour I spend learning, I spend another hour implementing. And I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you can, and it's good to learn. You should educate yourself. But it can almost become like that's all you do and you never actually implement the things you're learning. So yeah, that's what I would suggest.
I love that. Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough balance. That's something that I struggle with for sure is like, I either feel like I'm leaning too hard on the implementation and I don't know enough, and I'm like, wait, I got to go back and I'm going to learn some of this stuff. Or yeah, I'm just learning all this great stuff and I feel good about it. But then I have this sinking feeling that, wait, I still have to implement this, still have to do this. There's actionable things that have to happen. You can't just, if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to make money, you can't just learn things all day long. It doesn't, so it's a tough balance to strike, but I think that's a great point.
I think we all fall in that same trap though, right? Like when you just mentioned, Andrew, like you learn enough about it to implement something, but you don't know enough about it to continue to move forward with it. And so you get frustrated and you're like, oh man, now I need to go back and learn more. But like you said, Sarah, I mean, if you sit there and learn for an hour, just be satisfied with implementing what you just learned and don't worry about continuing to go forward with it until you sit down and learn some more. Or if it's one of those online live webinar things to where it's a course and you're learning, it's a 2-day event, sit there and consume that whole event, but also during the process, implement it. Because again, you can sit there and listen for 2 days and now you've learned so much information that you don't even know where to begin again. You're just as confused as when you started, even though you got so much gold from this that you were like, okay, I can do this. Oh, now I can do this. Oh, now I can do 50 other things. And the list gets so long that you're so overwhelmed. And I think we fall for that trap. It's like, okay, man, I know all this stuff now. I'm educated on it. But now the execution lacks because you're like, okay, well, I'll get to it later. Right. But instead, I love what you said, an hour of learning, an hour of execution, or just doing it. And that's what we need to do. We need to always educate ourselves because, again, that's what I fell for that trap. I educated myself for years and then started implementing everything. And it's just like things change, like algorithms change. This has changed. And you're just like penguin or whatever. And you're just like, your eyes start crossing. And you're just like, okay, I was legit. I was on top of my game this year. And then now everything has just totally morphed. And what is going on? Because you stop educating yourself. You need to make sure that the balance is there. And I agree, Andrew, it is a hard balance to find, right? I mean, we all have the same amount of time in a day, but how you actually break it up and how you set priorities on things is where you're going to ultimately fail or succeed, right? And so I really think when you sit there and look at it like that, I mean, implement what Sarah said. That is awesome. I mean, even what Andrew's talking about, for sure. I love that. So guys, I think that's a wrap for this episode. And from the both of us, Sarah, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us and adding value to what we're trying to do on our podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to have you on the show, Sarah. Guys, thank you so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Sarah is working on, check out thesarahstjohn.com/free. If you like what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or any other major podcast directory. You can also find us on all the socials and on our website at thatentrepreneurlife.com.
And with that said, guys, we also want to quickly give a special shout out to our family and friends, to include all of our listeners, followers, and subscribers. If you find value in our show, guys, please consider making a small donation. Even just a few dollars helps us keeps things moving along and brings value to your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs, guys. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.